A Black Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day was fastly approaching, and as the day drew closer, more and more people had stories to tell about their supposed lovers. In the midst of a society where it seemed like everyone had someone special to celebrate Valentine's Day with, Amanda felt left out and alone. Amanda was known as one of the best students in a reputable school in Port Harcourt. She was not only beautiful, but also intelligent and blessed with a loving body shape that made some people call her a mermaid. She was in her final year of secondary school and had made a commitment to give her best to her studies until deceit came knocking on her door. One day, while Amanda was studying alone, Deborah, one of her female classmates, who was known to be part of the Happening Babes gang that ruled the town, approached her and sat beside her. Amanda was surprised because Deborah had never spoken to her before and had even called her a studious fool who knew nothing beyond her books. At that moment, Deborah started chatting with the shocked Amanda. "Please, tomorrow, the 14th of February, is my birthday, and I want all of my friends to be there, including you," Deborah said. Amanda, taken aback, asked, "Am I your friend?" Deborah nodded her head in response and pleaded with Amanda to come to her party. Amanda accepted, giving in to Deborah's demand. Little did Amanda know, Deborah had no intention of celebrating her birthday. It was merely a ploy to get Amanda to her party. Deborah despised Amanda so much that she was willing to go to any lengths to destroy her. Deborah's boyfriend and his friends were hosting a Valentine's party, and some of them demanded girls and were ready to pay handsomely. Deborah couldn't risk losing that amount, so she started planning on how to gather some girls for them. She had already discussed her plan with two of her friends who agreed to help, but they needed someone else to complete the group. That's when the idea of inviting Amanda came to Deborah's mind. On Valentine's Day, Amanda dressed gorgeously, informing her parents that she was going to her friend's house for a birthday celebration. They couldn't decline since it was her first time going out without them. She eagerly boarded a cab, patiently waiting for Deborah to pick her up at the agreed junction. Before long, Deborah arrived and led Amanda to a house that was beautifully decorated with Valentine's designs. "I thought you said it's your birthday?" Amanda asked, curiosity evident in her voice. "It is, my dear," Deborah replied, leading her into the party room. Inside, a group of boys danced recklessly, each with their girlfriends except for one who couldn't help but smile upon seeing Amanda. He whispered to Deborah, "Is she the one for me?" Deborah nodded, confirming his suspicions. Without hesitation, he walked over to Amanda, took her hand, and requested a dance. But Amanda refused, instead asking to sit down on a nearby sofa. "It seems like she's hard to get," the guy said to himself, devising a plan to drug her. He went and fetched a juice, secretly adding sleeping pills to it, then offered it to Amanda, who unsuspectingly accepted the drink. "Since you don't want to dance with me, we can as well chat," he remarked, asking Amanda to take a sip of her drink. Unaware of the danger, Amanda took a few sips, feeling increasingly drowsy. Kenneth, the guy who had added the sleeping pills to her drink, led her to a room to lie down. Unbeknownst to Amanda, she was falling into a deep sleep, while Kenneth planned to take advantage of her by plotting to rape her. Kenneth, a wicked and an evil guy, had laid Amanda on the bed, closing the door to fulfill his wicked act. Without a bit of humanity left in him, he started raping Amanda and leaving her lifeless on the bed. Closing the door behind him, Kenneth wore his clothes and joined the others, a wicked smile on his face. He rejoiced in being the first person to have access to Amanda, boasting about his actions to his friends and the other girls. They all continued their Valentine celebration by indulging in lavish food and drinks. However, when the party came to an end and the girls requested to go home, they realized something was wrong. They asked Kenneth to wake Amanda up, as she has been sleeping for long, even passing the recommended time for the drug activeness. Hurrying to the room, Kenneth found Amanda still sleeping, not responding to his desperate attempts to wake her up. Panic set in as he screamed for help, alerting the others to the worst situation. It became clear that Amanda had tragically passed away, having been given a lot of sleeping pills and the rape that comes with it. Fear washed over the group as they contemplated how to hide their dark secret. They knew they needed to dispose of her body to avoid suspicion. Under the cover of darkness, they carried Amanda's lifeless form to the back of a car. Their hearts heavy with guilt, they made their way to the riverside, intending to throw her body in the water and erase all evidence of their evil act. With united effort, they lowered her lifeless body into the river and left, each pretending as though nothing had happened. Meanwhile, Amanda's worried parents became increasingly anxious as their daughter, who never stayed out at night, failed to return. Quickly, they tried calling her phone, only to discover it was switched off. Kenneth had discarded it into his dustbin earlier. Fearing the worst, they made their way to the police station in the early morning to report her as missing. The police tried to reassure them, suggesting that perhaps she had gone out with friends to celebrate Valentine's Day under the pretense of attending a birthday party. But Amanda's parents knew in their hearts that their daughter would never deceive them. Following the instructions of the police, they returned home, holding on to a glimmer of hope that Amanda would soon come back to them. Desperate to find her, they plastered pictures of Amanda on every wall in Port Harcourt, hoping someone would recognize her and provide information on her whereabouts. Days turned into weeks, and still, there was no news. Amanda's parents were consumed by grief, unable to understand the possibility of her being kidnapped, unaware that their beloved daughter had met a tragic fate. They cried endlessly, their hearts shattered by the unbearable loss they had experienced. The police also went to the school to gather information from her classmates, but none of them agreed to knowing her whereabouts, even Deborah and her friends who had caused her painful death. "It's obvious your daughter lied to you both. She said she's going to a classmate's party and none of them hosted a birthday party on that day. There's a possibility she got kidnapped or she's still in her lover's place. Anyways, we shall continue with the investigation," the police officer said, leaving the painful parents who couldn't endure the pain anymore. Amanda's parents, still devastated and confused, returned home feeling a heavy weight on their hearts. They had exhausted all options and efforts in their search for their beautiful and obedient daughter, but to no avail. Morning came and found Amanda's parents lying in bed, consumed by their thoughts and contemplating their next move. Work had become an impossibility due to the so much pain caused by their daughter's sudden and mysterious disappearance. As they laid there, lost in their thoughts, a knock came through the house, waking them from their deep thoughts. Elizabeth, Amanda's mother, mustered up the strength to rise from the bed and make her way towards the door, desperate to know who was there. Opening the door, Elizabeth was met with a sight that filled her with excitement and quickly causing extreme happiness within her. Standing before her was a girl dressed in Amanda's school uniform. In her excitement, Elizabeth mistook this girl for her daughter and called out to her husband, Daniel, who hurriedly came to join her at the door, curious about the cause of her loud shout. "Our daughter is here," Elizabeth exclaimed, causing Daniel to shake his head in disbelief, realizing his wife's desperate desire to see Amanda had closed her vision. "This is not Amanda, dear," he gently corrected her, pulling her back to reality. True to Daniel's observation, Elizabeth now saw that she had been lost in her own world of imagination. Attempting to recollect herself, she invited the girl inside, offering her a seat on the sofa. This girl, whose name was Miracle, proceeded to share her side of the story regarding Amanda's whereabouts. Miracle began narrating her side of the story. It was one fateful afternoon at school when she had witnessed Amanda and a classmate named Deborah, or Debbie as she was commonly known, engaged in a conversation. Deborah had invited Amanda to her birthday party, and after their interaction, Amanda had gone home. Miracle hadn't thought much of it at the time, assuming that Amanda would never accept such an invitation from someone she considered wayward. The revelation of Deborah's involvement both shocked and surprised Amanda's parents, as they had no idea that she might know anything about their missing daughter. Determined to get to the bottom of things, they quickly brought Miracle along to the police station to inform the police officers of the new information they had gathered. The police officers wasted no time and headed straight to the school, where they arrested two of Deborah's friends, as Deborah herself was absent that day. Upon questioning, the friends were stubborn and totally denied having any knowledge of Amanda's whereabouts. However, they claimed that Amanda had left the party with a man who she had danced with during the party. They also lied that Amanda had followed the man because he was rich. The police officers found their story false and demanded to know the address where the party had taken place. Fearing not to be exposed or suspected by the police officers, the two girls quickly called the location, making the officers to rush there in search of anything that could help them in finding Amanda. Their hopes were broken when they discovered the house locked and no one was there. Disappointed, they decided to return to the police station. This made Amanda's parents heartbroken, and it felt as if the ground should open for them to fall into it. "Let's go," the police officers told them. As they were heading to the police vehicle, Amanda's mother spotted something peculiar in a nearby dustbin, her daughter's phone. She let out a scream of shock and urgency, alerting the police officers. They quickly retrieved the phone, dusted it off, and switched it on. The revelation of the phone's presence led them to doubt the girl's claims of innocence. The question ran through their minds: had Amanda met with foul play inside that house? Did they strangle her there and locked the door? What had transpired within those walls of the house? Determined to find answers, the officers rushed back to the police station, ready to go deeper and force the stubborn girls into speaking the truth. Meanwhile, Deborah had been alerted on her friend's arrest. Coming from a rich home, she had told her parents what happened that night, and they are already making preparations to fly her out of the country. On the banks of the river where Amanda's body had been thrown in, a group of fishermen, who were regular visitors to the area in search of their daily catch, were going about their usual routines, fishing. As they cast their nets into the water and began to roll them in, they noticed that the net felt unusually heavy. Uneasy, one of the fishermen excitedly called out to his companions, anticipating a large catch that would bring them a handsome sum of money. Together, they eagerly gathered around, their hands joining in a united effort to draw the net out of the water. As they drew the net out of the water, revealing its contents, the fishermen were left speechless. Inside the net was a young girl, her lifeless body suggesting that she had been there, in the river for several days. The fishermen were shocked by the unexpected discovery of the girl's body. They quickly attempted to revive her, only to realize that the water was not the cause of her demise, as her stomach remained flat, free from any signs of drowning. Confused on what had caused a young girl's body in the river and by the secret surrounding her death, the fishermen unitedly agreed to transport her body to the local police station for further investigation. They placed her in a barrow, driving her dead body to the police station for further investigation. Meanwhile, Daniel stood at the entrance of the police station, involved in a phone call, when his attention was drawn to a commotion outside. To his disbelief, he recognized the figure being carried by the group of men as his own daughter, Amanda, clothed in the same attire she had worn when departing for the ill-fated party. The men carried Amanda's body inside the police station, calling upon the officers to alert them on what happened. Hurrying and heading towards the scene, Daniel's worst fears became a reality as the men revealed that they had discovered her dead body in the river. Filled with pain on hearing that their daughter was found dead, Daniel and Elizabeth were shocked, unable to understand the saddening turn of events. Elizabeth, who was pained hearing that her only child is gone, fell to the ground and fainted, Daniel throwing himself on the floor, shaking his head in sorrow. The fisherman narrated their discovery to the police officers standing at the counter. From their dressing, one could easily notice that they were fishermen trying to make a living. Expressing their suspicions of foul play in Amanda's death, the men pleaded with the officers to take immediate action. The police officers thanked the fishermen for taking their time in bringing in Amanda's body, and appreciating them for revealing the important part of an evidence that could answer their questions. The police officers decided to take Amanda's body to undergo an autopsy at the hospital in a bid to expose the secret behind her untimely death. Inside the cell of the police station, the two girls who had lied that Amanda followed a rich man after the party was over found themselves subjected to intense questioning by the officers, who pressed them to reveal the truth surrounding the events leading up to her death. Despite their forceful interrogation, the girls remained stubborn in their silence, refusing to give out any information. Frustrated by their silence, the police officers contemplated employing more forceful measures to extract the truth from their unwilling subjects. "If you girls fail to give us any relevant information on what happened at the party, I'll instruct my men to end you both with their guns," the DPO said, calling upon the armed officers to shoot them. The girls didn't want to die and wasted no time in narrating how Amanda was lured to the party, drugged and raped. They also called out the names and addresses of the guys who were involved in the crime. The police officers divided themselves into groups to arrest them before they would escape. Meanwhile, Deborah was already at the airport waiting for the plane to take off. The police officers split up and drove their separate vehicles to different locations. Some were actively searching for Kenneth and his friends, while the remaining officers headed straight to Deborah's house to arrest her. Upon arriving at Deborah's house, the gateman, who was acting under the directions of Deborah's parents, prevented them from coming in. His refusal to allow the officers entry only served to further anger them, leading the police officers to throw him to the ground, rolled him and placed him inside the police van. With the gate key now in their possession, the officers proceeded towards the main house. Deborah's parents, filled with fears, rose into action, with her mother rushing to her room, dialing Deborah's number to warn her to escape. "Debbie, where are you?" she urgently inquired over the phone. Deborah explained her current situation, waiting on a plane that was delayed due to a search. The seriousness of the situation became clear as her mother revealed the presence of the police officers and instructed her to leave the plane and flee to their other house. "The police are already here, and our future is uncertain," her mother said before ending the call. Afraid yet calm, Deborah realized that her best chance of escaping unnoticed lay in using the cap in her sweater to cover her face so the police officers won't notice. With her face covered, she devised a plan to fake a need to use the toilet near the plane's entrance so the police officers won't arrest her. The dangerous escape attempt was set into action as Deborah covered her face and made her way towards the toilet, attempting to leave the plane unnoticed. Despite her efforts to run away from her crime, her hopes were shattered when a deep voice beckoned from behind. "Stop right there. Drop your bag, raise your hands, and obey our commands," the commanding officer ordered, his colleagues quickly coming forth to handcuff Deborah. She knew her days of running was over. She quickly stretched forth her hands, submitting to the handcuffs as the police officers dragged her to the police vehicle heading to the station. Entering into the cell, she was shocked to discover her two friends also in custody, leading her to accuse them of betrayal for their role in her arrest. "So you guys betrayed me," Deborah said to her friends. Facing interrogation at the station, Deborah made the decision to reveal the identities and whereabouts of the other guys who were involved in the murder, now that the game was up. Tortured by the officers about the hideout of his boyfriend and company, she disclosed their hideout in an abandoned house near the bush. No one would have thought that someone would be in such lonely place. Quickly acting on the information, the officers went to their hideout and brought them into custody. In the days that followed, they were brought to court, with the judge giving them a punishment of life imprisonment with hard labor. A befitting burial was organized for the late Amanda, whose absence caused endless pain to her parents. Though justice was served, Amanda's parents were left fighting with the harsh reality of living without her.